So now we need to swap a U for this girl. It's kind of getting late in the day too, so I'm not sure if we're actually going to take this apart today. What I might do is just give you a rundown on the car and what we're going to do to it. Alrighty friends, welcome back to the channel. Today's episode is just going to be a brief introduction of this car and what we need to do to it before we take it on the Silver Summit, should the 2002 not be finished in time. This was my first car. I bought it in 2008 and I've taken it on several enormous road trips since then. It's been to Austin, it's been to Portland, down the one to LA and back. It's been to Vegas, it's been another trip to LA. It's been all over the place. And that has just been on the M42 swap. Before that, with the M10, I drove down to Dallas and M42 swapped it. It was a complete rebuild on the M42, just a stock rebuild. I was planning on making it a road trip car, so I wanted something super efficient, and the M42 is a pretty dang efficient engine. But the main problem that we're going to try and rectify while it's in this stall is in my younger days of not really understanding how electronic fuel injection worked, or at least not being aware of how it worked, I put a 75-degree Celsius thermostat in this engine because I didn't want to put a resistor in the coolant temperature sensor wiring. Now, knowing what I do about fuel injection nowadays, I realized that that means that the ECU never registered that the car was getting up to temperature, so it's always been running rich. Because for the past 6 years, I've been kind of disappointed with how, it doesn't get poor fuel economy, but I was expecting to get 35 on the highway, and I only end up getting about 31. And it always acts like it's bogging down, it runs rich. We took it up Pikes Peak once, and when we got up towards the summit, you could floor it and it wouldn't accelerate, it would just bog down and try to die. So I'm thinking, I can't remember what the last thermostat I put in it was, but I'm taking a gamble and saying that it's probably not the correct 88-degree thermostat. So I got one of those. We're gonna swap that out, get some fresh coolant in it, because it's been a couple years since I put fresh coolant in it, and do the oil change. I'd like to get the previous owner, Greg, put a really sweet gauge cluster, like gauge pack. I think it has 6 gauges, and none of them have ever been hooked up since I've owned the car, besides the voltmeter, which doesn't read accurately. But in 2020, late 2020, we took it to a rallycross and drove the absolute crap out of it. And it's coming up on being a 50-year-old car, 43 years old. And when you take a 43-year-old car that's mostly stock suspension-wise, like mostly original steering and suspension-wise, out to a rallycross and have no mechanical sympathy because you're trying to win, the car wasn't very happy about that. So after that rallycross, it developed probably 3 inches of slack in the steering column before it would actually do anything. So we're going to try and take a look and see what's going on there. I need to bleed the brakes, check the fluids, driveline fluids and everything. And there's a couple things that I'd like to tidy up under the hood to make sure that when we go to get teched for the Silver Summit, kind of seems like they're a little strict. I know I'm probably going to need a windshield, even though that cracked one has been that way since I bought the car from Greg back in 2008. We're going to get it up in the air today. I'll walk you through about a couple of the things that we're going to try and rectify, and that'll be today's video. So thanks for joining us again, and let's get to it. Please go up higher with these. Time for the back. All right, now that we're up in the air a little bit, let's take a little tour. Ooh. Did you pop already? Sweet. Need to redo the hood stuff. But there she is. DIY M42 swap. Now, I didn't mention earlier one of the other problems. I need to grab a flashlight real quick. So we took this car to Las Vegas and LA, middle of July. No air conditioning. And we drove through the middle of Utah. Now, both of us almost died from heat stroke, so you can only imagine how warm the engine was getting. And it developed this weird problem that I've never really been able to explain. I don't know if it's going to be easily viewable on camera or not, next to the yellow injector right there, there's a lot of dust built up. And that is from fuel leaking out of the injector seals. And I've never been able to explain why that was the case. So we are gonna take the intake manifold off and take a look-see, replace the injector seals, and see if we can take care of that problem. Gonna be replacing the thermostat and the thermostat housing gasket, probably changing the oil, doing something with that less than appealing secure mounting of the relay cluster, changing the brake fluid, changing the engine oil, probably cleaning our air filter after that rallycross as well, just because, yeah, it needs it. And then down here, if I can see, maybe we can see that on camera, maybe we can't. But the rubber steering joint down there, you can see that crack. Those got much bigger during that rallycross. So we're probably going to end up replacing that as well. Go ahead and pop inside, take a look-see at the gauge cluster. Volt, oil temp, oil pressure, air temperature, which we won't use, boost, which we won't use, obviously, in the one in the bottom right is a AFR gauge. So I'm thinking what I might do is get us a coolant temperature sending unit. That way we have a direct feedback that's calibrated so we can actually see what the coolant temperature is rather than just looking at a vague readout on the gauge itself, not really knowing what's what. Because that might be kind of nice to actually know what our coolant temperature is. And then we'll do a once over on the whole suspension, change the fluids as necessary. Maybe do spark plugs because those haven't been done since I did the swap initially, and we'll kind of go from there. This is the swap setup. I tried to do it as best as I could. I did it all in this garage without really any knowledge of how to do an engine swap. The last one I had done was an M20 swap on my 83 320i. That was my caged race car. I say race car, but really I mean race car. I never really did any actual sanctioned racing with it, but it had a cage. We need to clean up this wiring. We need to properly install this fuse for the fuel pump circuit in a different place. Kind of try and redo the mounting on these guys. Check the steering, just give it a freshen up because like I said in the intro, I've been neglecting this car for a while and it really deserves some high quality love. And I think we might end up swapping the wheels too, because these wheels are going to end up eventually on the red 320IS that we have outside. For some reason, I've never really been fond of these. I bought them for this car and took them on that large road trip that we took it on, but I don't know what it is about them. They're great looking wheels. I just don't like the way they look on this car. So we'll probably end up putting the Railsback on it and making that the setup before we take it on the Silver Summit. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. Obviously, I don't think we're going to end up doing any work today. It's good enough to just get it up in the air, kind of give you guys a rundown of what we're going to be doing when we get back from our trip. Obviously, the video we filmed earlier, taking the M10 apart, getting that ready to go to the machine shop. That's a big, exciting moment. And yeah, I mean, got plenty to do on this thing. Do a little bit of cleanup, do a little bit of rearranging, just make it a little bit more professional looking. I know I can do a much better job than what I did in several places on this swap, now that I'm much more mature and experienced after working at the shop I'm working at for the past 6 years. Thanks again for coming along on another episode. We're gonna go film episode number 3 for this Sunday, which is polishing the crap out of my Honda Fit. And I guess that's the video that you guys will get next week. And until I get back, that will be what you get. Thanks for coming along on another episode of the John Maudlin YouTube channel. As you can tell, this is about, I don't know, a third of the projects that we have laying around in several different places. So we're just gonna kind of start checking them off one by one and working our way to make the list from this big to this big. And I'm glad that you all are coming along on the journey with us. We have a huge stockpile of stuff that we need to do to a lot of other cars as well. I have all the parts, but for rebuilding a 22RE for my 87 4Runner at my house, in boxes, on shelves, ready to put together. And so we'll do that at some point. We'll take that thing on one last hurrah before we put the new engine in it. And I'll show you why that'll be an exciting adventure. We've got a bunch of stuff that we need to do to Tasha Z30 to get it ready to roll for road trips this summer, because she misses the heck out of driving that car, and I miss watching her and seeing her drive that car. We've got plenty to do. We've got plenty of exciting content coming in the future. Thank you for hanging out with me. My name is John Maudlin. I guess for the time being, we're gonna go polish a Honda Fit. Stay excited for that video, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. I love you.